Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making the rarest type of commentary video, a video about something that I actually like and that I think is good. Hopefully I can hold back the tears as I bare my soul to you all. I'm gonna sound even more like John Mulaney in this video than I already do, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. It's pretty easy to define the last decade of late night television as the internet era. It's crazy to think there was a time when YouTube did exist and every talk show didn't upload interview clips to YouTube and clips of those clips to Instagram Reels and still images of those clips as like the carousel Instagram Reels where it's just pictures. Network late shows are just as much about the online audience as they are about the television audience, and that shift is only going to continue. I think the best thing to come from the online audience is Seth Meyers' Corrections, which is only on YouTube.
Gonna play the song? Unless any one of you wants to fess up now? Okay. Alex, cue the music. Stop. Now's the time, gentlemen.
It's something that couldn't exist without the internet, and it's my favorite thing he does. If you haven't watched all 134 episodes, you do have to start at the beginning, otherwise you won't get why his ear looks like this. There's no lore reason you're missing out on. The show is just episodic, the same way 50 Shades of Grey is.
There's just enough overlap between each one that it's almost impossible to change anything structural without getting completely radical.
Is there a direct line between Andy Samberg's FaceTime impressions and the ketamine ferret circus? Not really. But you can't get to one without going through the other. But Corrections is the exception to the rule. Pretty much every late night talk show now follows the same structure. Opening monologue about Trump, followed by a short desk piece, followed by the celebrity interviews, all individually wrapped and put on YouTube for our viewing pleasure. I'm not saying that sameness means late night shows used to be good, but they're bad now. I'm not old enough to be that cynical. I'm just saying when I bring up current late night talk show, you understand the vibes and the format and the whole construction of it. And clearly, it works. Colbert, Kimmel, and Meyers all get a few million views on their monologues and a closer look, and even Jimmy Fallon is doing monologues about Trump now.
Trump claimed that egg prices are down, gasoline is down, and groceries are down. Then a staffer said, "Sir, those charts are your approval rating." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry."
If that doesn't tell you that people are desperate for someone, anyone with a platform to talk about what the fuck is going on in this country, I don't know what does. There also hasn't been a new late night host since Colbert took over The Late Show in 2015, and he might be the last comedian ever to get a network late night talk show. When beloved actor James Corden left The Late Late Show, CBS wanted to replace it with something easier to produce and less expensive. And now that that easier to produce, less expensive thing is also ending, it seems that there won't be anything to fill that time slot. It's just gonna be an hour of the all-seeing CBS eyeball, broken up every 15 minutes by commercials. My preferred outcome is they bring The Late Late Show back and give it to Roy Wood Jr. or Amber Ruffin or Michael Longfellow or fucking Peyton Manning.
The French have a saying, parlez-vous français, which means you do you, girl.
But I'll take anything that gives comedians a place to make silly television. In reality, it'll probably end up being like the Matt Rife crowd work hour, and that might even be too current for CBS. The show that's doing something to break out of the current late night format is Everybody's Live with John Mulaney, formerly Everybody's in LA. Do I like John Mulaney? This might come as a shock, but yes, I do. I think it makes a lot of sense for John to be a late night talk show host because late night talk shows are like weirdly formal. John's from a different generation than the rest of the late night hosts, and he hasn't been doing this for a decade, which means he has some insight on how to innovate the form. But I think the show works not just by innovating, but by doing what late night talk shows used to do. It's a throwback to an earlier era of late night, the era that every current late night host talks about being their inspiration. The set especially feels of a different time with all its patterned furniture and ever-growing collection of glass grapes and a telescope that was inexplicably used multiple times on the show.
Richard gifted me this Vixen Space Eye telescope. Isn't that very nice of him to do?
A big clunky gift. Big clunky gift helps you stay top of mind.
I think it's time to look through the old telescope. Yeah. We're over here here by the window because John Waters wouldn't shut the fuck up about my telescope.
My favorite thing about the set is they don't put John behind a desk. He's sitting with everybody else. And because of the style and the number of things going on and the fact that it is a live show, the comedy feels kinetic. There's a sense of energy to it. And I think if you put John behind a desk, that would give a little bit of ease, which the show cannot afford to have. At no point during the show does it ever feel like John's 100% on top of things. And that's part of the fun.
Did we do birthdays? Yeah.
David Letterman, the man second most responsible for all this, was on a recent episode, and he said,
I used to do a television show, and every now and then we'd come up with a lame premise like the height deal. I am thrilled and stunned that it's working so well.
Now, that height deal is the major through line of the current run of episodes.
In episode 3 of Everybody Is Live, an audience member challenged John and said, hey, you can't line up a man for every inch between 5 foot and 7 foot. 24 men, 24 different heights. You can't do it. And over the next 4 episodes, they did everything they could to take on this challenge.
They started the Know Your Age campaign, encouraging men to get properly measured and be proud of their height. They had ads from Real Fake Patients, Real Fake Doctors, and Randall Park, who is his own person and doesn't need to be reminded every day of that one time he was on The Office.
I cannot overstate how ever-present the Know Your Age campaign is on the show.
It all culminated with a successful completion of the challenge, saved at the last minute by Jimmy Kimmel, and the reveal that the audience member was a spirit, a genie, someone who had personally wronged Thanos, who knows? Is this all dumb? Yes, absolutely. It is also some of the funniest television I have watched in months. The fact that this Know Your Age campaign has lasted a full month and a half is the kind of stupid commitment to a bit that I think current late night has lost. It's also something that only works if you're watching the whole show and not just clips posted to YouTube. It's what Corrections has done so well and why that has cultivated such a loyal audience of jackals. It's silly comedy for silly comedy's sake. It also helps that because this is a limited run live show on Netflix once a week, the guests aren't necessarily there to promote something. In fact, I think if you were trying to promote your new movie or TV show, going on Everybody's Live would be a mistake. There's just not enough time on the show to talk about your new project for 3 main reasons. Number 1, the show has so much going on. So much more happens in an episode of Everybody's Live than an episode of any other talk show.
Part of that is it's a true hour-long TV show. There's no commercial breaks, so they have an extra 15 minutes where they have to do something.
This is the Wikipedia summary for episode 5. Mulaney talks to Bill Hader, Chelsea Peretti, Johnny Knoxville, and Human Resources Executive and Employee Coach Katie Maillard. Musical guest Bartees Strange performed sober from his album Horror. The episode opens with a disclaimer saying that Richard Kind suffered a concussion and thinks he's Gene Simmons. Mulaney opens with an extended monologue about how his NBC sitcom pilot was rejected and how he later wrote commercials for Madden NFL video games featuring Ray Lewis, who gave him advice to win your crowd after he was wrongfully accused of murder and was later inspired by Gladiator. The pilot was later picked up by Fox and was titled Mulaney. Hader talks about how he got fired from a movie theater after spoiling the plot of Titanic, and Peretti talked about working for Burly Bear Network and at Macy's. Mulaney muses about the brilliance of Jussie Smollett's hate crime hoax. A pre-taped sketch advertises telemedicine for the Know Your Age campaign. Andre DeShields appears in the audience as Chesterton Cheadle, the cat who inspired Chester Cheetah. Mulaney shows a pre-taped interview with Michael Jackson's 41-year-old chimp, Bubbles Jackson, portrayed by Langston Kerman, who talks about the late singer's sexual abuse allegations and plugs his podcast. So, in that time, where are you going to figure out how to talk about how fun it was to work with Ben Stiller on set? That summary doesn't even mention the on-air phone calls that John and the guests take, which help elevate the show and give it this almost like surrealist feeling to it. It's so funny watching 4 celebrities in a show format that should be all about how fun and cool and relatable they are, sit around and listen to the most boring phone call you've heard in your life. I love the bad phone calls even more than the good ones. A good one here is learning about a man who was 6 feet tall and then got the break your legs to make you taller surgery, and now he's 6'7" and he has a lot of pain and complications from the surgery. That's a good phone call here. A bad phone call is listening to someone ramble for 2 minutes before John eventually hangs up on them.
We have a lot of eyes in the sky. There's eyes in the sky. We got
I'm sorry.
security
All right, I'm done with that. I'm very sorry. You seem like a good guy.
The second reason it'd be hard to promote something on Everybody's Live is every 5 minutes, Richard Kind comes out of nowhere with an absolute zinger. And I don't think John would let you use that time to promote something when we could be hearing from Richard Kind. He's right over there, and he will say something funny. If nothing else, the show has brought Richard Kind into my life more consistently than ever before. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
The other reason it'd be hard to promote a movie on Everybody's Live in LA is every episode has a topic. This feels incredibly John Mulaney. His opening monologue has to do with the topic. He asks all his guests about the topic. The one person who's not a celebrity and has a normal job is knowledgeable about the topic. He asks that all the phone calls be about the topic, and for the most part, they are. It gives the show enough structure that episodes feel coherent.
But the topic is not a decree that the rest of the show must abide by. There will always be sketches that have nothing to do with the topic, and that's part of the fun of the show.
Late night TV will never be what it used to be.
There's like a million reasons for this, and even more YouTube videos and articles about this. But if you want an answer that's more specific than the internet exists, I think podcasts are a good reason.
If I love Paul Rudd, and I wouldn't go that far, I'd say I like the guy, I'd rather listen to him talk on a podcast for an hour where it's looser, he's just kind of bantering around, than on a 6.5 minute late night clip where the host is constantly pulling out pictures on a piece of cardstock. Why do they still do that? We're in the future now. You can just make the picture appear and anything you want appears on the screen. And if I'm a budding stand-up comedian, why would I want to do a late night talk show when I could just do a podcast? You get to talk for longer, you get to wear whatever you want, you have more engaging conversations with your guests, and maybe Spotify will give you a few $1 million for it. But I think Everybody's Live is the best example of why you would want to do a talk show in 2025.
Because of the rest of the media landscape, you can have a late night show that doesn't need to be as reliant as the talk show part of it. You'll still have cameos and celebrities and musical guests, which, by the way, every single person is live has had a fantastic breadth of musical guests on the show. Cypress Hill, Mannequin Pussy, Barty Strange, Randy Newman, Maggie Rogers, and many, many more. The most sincere part of the show is when John says,
Everybody's Live is the best music program in entertainment today.
And he's 100% correct. But with better interviews elsewhere, the show gets to go all in on the comedy, and the interviews aren't even really interviews. They're silly banter for the in-between moments. My top 3 guests for Nobody's Pre-Recorded. Number 1, John Waters.
He immediately understood what type of show this was and was just saying shit just to say something.
What do you have in your house?
Just weird shit around. I mean, I have an electric chair at my front hall.
You have an electric chair?
Yeah, that gives a certain edge.
Who else is going to go on a talk show and talk about finding both Antifa and the Proud Boys hot? Nobody.
Like Antifa, they have good outfits.
They do.
All those black and that trash can with duct tape on it. They look kind of good. And some of the Proud Boys are cute.
Number 2, Molly Shannon. I need to rewatch more of her time on SNL because after watching SNL 50 and her appearance on the show, she is such a comedic powerhouse. She just bombards this real doctor with an incredibly long-winded story about other doctors stealing fentanyl for themselves, and then is like, so has anything like that ever happened? Anything like that ever happened before? And number 3, of course it's Conan O'Brien, the man most responsible for this show. His back and forth with John about scientists not knowing what they're doing is a great send-up of the conversations you usually hear on podcasts. I could listen to Conan talk forever, and that is my next video, listen to Conan O'Brien talk for 100 hours straight. But not everyone gets it like I do. Not everyone sees the show the way I see it. So many people, many of them John Mulaney fans, think the show is bad and not good. Like I think it's good. And that's the point of this video I made. Everybody's Live is borderline unwatchable. Everybody's Live is horrid, and half the guests know it. And they especially hate the call-in portions. Just get rid of the phone-in guests already. They aren't allowed the opportunity to be funny or informative, so what's the point? That's exactly the point. The show is not meant to be smooth. It's meant to have bumps, because John can't do those anymore. The awkward calls build up the tension, and then a pre-taped sketch or a Richard Kind one-liner breaks it. I've also seen people say they hate the phone calls because John comes across as mean. Everybody's Live is weird in the best way, entertaining and sometimes hilarious, but John's acting like an asshole. You mean to tell me the guy who said,
"Oh, you mean like having friends?" No. Because these people make fun of other people. Oh, you mean like having friends?
And whose comedic partner said,
"Oh, hello" is like you guys doing who you really are inside, and that is like Nick is a baby and John is an asshole.
You think he might be a little rude to a stranger who's rambling on his live talk show? Nothing gets past you. It is also still a comedy show during the phone calls. The phone calls are not meant to be a reprieve from funny moments. They're meant to be a continuation of those. That's part of the fun of it being a live show, is sometimes you get a caller who's great, and sometimes you gotta cut a bitch off. The people who don't like it are entitled to that opinion. The show's only gonna last a few more weeks, and then we'll see if they bring it back for another season. But it is kind of nice to have a late night show that's like, for me. Like, I'm the exact person who John made this show for, the same way that John as a kid was the exact person who Conan made his show for. It's just about making sure white guys feel comfortable in comedy. We're such a vulnerable group. It's silly, it's meta with the late night structure, it had Andre de Shields on and he did a musical number. Like, who else is doing that these days? Nobody. No one else has the courage. And I hope they bring the show back for a third season, even if it's not doing well. In fact, the worse that the show is doing ratings-wise, the more I think it should be brought back. Clearly, Americans don't know what's good for them. Everybody's Live is the chicken soup that this nation's soul needs.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, and you wouldn't mind leaving a like or subscribing, I would really appreciate that. And thank you all so much for 50,000 subscribers. The fact that 50,000 people care about the videos that I make is really touching and heartwarming, and I feel so lucky that I get to make these and that people actually want to watch them. So thank you so very much. I probably sounded more like Mulaney than I usually do in this video, but I'm still not going to say nightmare like that, because what the hell? Again, thank you so much for watching this video. It really does mean a lot to me. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye! Wait, why does my hair look different? This is such a beige frame.
I'm sort of a sick guy obsessed with a talk show host. What am I, the Joker?